Do you put on fat especially on your belly or around your midsection? Then you may have high levels of the hormone cortisol in your body, which may make it a lot more difficult to lose weight. Why? That's what we'll talk about in this video. And make sure you stick around till the end because I'll share 7 practical tips to help reduce cortisol and make weight loss easier. And I'm pretty sure you're going to like those tips because they might be the most pleasant weight loss tips ever. Hey guys, for those who don't know me, I'm Ingunn, a Norwegian Viking, bringing you no BS science-based weight loss tips. No calorie counting or exercise required. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel and make sure you click that bell button. So, having fat, especially around your midsection or on your belly, can be a sign that you have high levels of cortisol. Cortisol is a hormone we secrete when we're stressed. Though note that it's not only when we feel stressed that we may have high levels of cortisol in our body. Our dietary habits, including when we eat, how much we eat, and the specific foods we eat, may all influence our cortisol secretion. And so can our physical activity, as well as other factors in our life, which we'll talk more about later in this video. Now, specifically where we tend to put on fat on our body is not only determined by the amount of cortisol in our body, it also has to do with, for example, genetics. However, there's certainly a correlation between cortisol and having a lot of belly fat or fat around the midsection specifically. For example, one study found that overweight women who had especially a lot of fat around their waist secreted significantly more cortisol during a stressful episode than overweight women who put on fat elsewhere on their body. So cortisol seemed to specifically be related to having lots of fat around the midsection or on your belly. It's also found that when cortisol levels are normalized in people with chronically high levels of cortisol, they lose a significant amount of fat, specifically the fat around their midsection. And this gives us some hope, at least, because it suggests that if we are able to reduce cortisol, we may be able to lose that belly fat. And I'll give you some practical tips on how to do this later in this video. Now, what exactly does cortisol have to do with gaining excess fat? Well, there are several different things going on here, and it's quite complex, so I'll try to keep it simple. For one, having high levels of cortisol may actually lead us to eat more. One study found that healthy men who were given a synthetic glucocorticoid, cortisol is a type of glucocorticoid, those men who were given that as a treatment or a supplement ended up eating way more, about 60% more than those who were not given that, even though both groups were allowed to eat as much as they would like. On top of this, cortisol may also influence our metabolism, meaning how many calories we burn. For example, over time, it leads to lower thyroid function, which is one of the regulators of our metabolism. And it may even reduce the amount of energy we burn off as heat. You see, our body has 2 different types of fat tissue, brown and white. And the brown fat primarily functions as a way for us to burn off energy as heat. And burning extra energy is of course something we want when trying to lose weight. However, studies suggest that cortisol reduces the function of brown fat, leading to it burning fewer calories. So not only may cortisol lead us to eating more, we may even end up burning fewer calories. Not a great combination. And not to mention, when I get stressed at least, I can get quite bloated, which also doesn't help with both how I feel and how my belly looks. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, I would really appreciate if you gave it a thumbs up, and also make sure you're subscribed to my channel. And for lots more no BS science-based weight loss tips, make sure you follow me on Instagram at VikingIngunn. So, what are some practical tips to help reduce stress and cortisol? Because remember, it's not only when we feel stressed that our body is stressed. Our dietary habits, how we exercise, etc. can play a huge role here. And also just a quick note here that some people actually take glucocorticoids as medication for some health issues. And that's actually one of the reasons it's well known that glucocorticoids can lead to weight gain, especially around the belly area. Though I'm certainly not going to tell you to stop any medication, so that's something you'd have to discuss with your doctor. Though apart from that, let's take a look at some practical tips. Don't overdo it with exercise. We're often led to believe that we should all be exercising every single day, and the more you exercise, the better. However, this can put a lot of stress on the body. And really, it's not necessary to exercise every single day in order to be fit. It can even be counterproductive because the body needs time to rest and recover. So make sure you don't overdo it with exercise because it can put unnecessary stress on the body. Also make sure you eat enough food. And yes, that also goes for anyone who's trying to lose weight. Too little food puts stress on the body. There's a reason why some people can't lose weight even on a 1200 calorie diet. It's pretty crazy. Some people barely eat and exercise a lot, yet still can't lose the excess fat. And this is actually a good thing, because if you look at it from the body's perspective, it's actually just trying to survive in a situation of starvation and a lot of stress. So it's best to lower the metabolism so it doesn't burn unnecessary calories. It's a smart thing for the body to do so that we can survive in situations like that. Though when we ultimately want to lose the excess fat, we need to signal to the body that there's no reason to be stressed. And one factor that plays a role here is the amount of food you eat, and also the type of foods you eat. For example, don't go too low on the carbs for too long. Even though limiting the amount of carbs we eat can work well for weight loss, eating a low-carb diet over a long period of time can put unnecessary stress on the body and increase cortisol. And actually, as I talked about in my previous video, a lot of the benefits of a low-carb diet when it comes to weight loss may not even have anything to do with the lack of carbs. So it may not even be necessary to go that low on the carbs if you implement the other factors that I talked about in my previous video. I will link to that video below in case you haven't watched it yet. Another thing we'll want to do is to not stress over natural fluctuations in our weight. Your weight will not be decreasing linearly even if you do all the right things. So don't stress over the small stuff. Just look for the overall trend. And try to not stress too much over slip-ups either. If you go off track, don't overdo it the next few days by barely eating anything and going to the gym 3 times a day. I'm exaggerating here, though hopefully you get the point. As we talked about earlier, these things add stress to the body. And make sure you take time every single day to relax your body and your mind. Like going for a walk, especially in nature or out in a park. Listen to some music. Pet your dog. Try to be present in the moment and be grateful for everything good in your life. And try to catch yourself whenever you say something negative or you're complaining. If you really pay attention, I bet you'll notice that you complain or say negative things a lot more than you think. Trust me, I've been there. When I did this exercise many years ago, I realized that I used to say so many negative things all day long. Even when I didn't think I was being negative because I was being sarcastic or just making fun of something negative, the energy just wasn't good. And all this negativity just adds unnecessary stress. I know this may sound like BS and something that wouldn't make a difference when it comes to weight loss, though if you're not willing to give it a try, how would you know? It might even help with your energy and motivation to put into other strategies for losing weight. And I just want to make this clear. I'm not saying you need to turn into a ray of sunshine and be happy all the time. Not at all. It cannot be fake. And no one is happy all the time anyway. This is not about walking around with a smile on your face all day long and forgetting about anything difficult in life. I'm only talking about getting rid of a lot of the negativity in your life that you just don't need, all the unnecessary stuff. And on top of this, try your best to get good quality sleep. Even just one night of poor sleep can increase cortisol and even affect a lot of the other hormones in your body. Now, I get that it's easier said than done to sleep well, and that even stress can cause you to not sleep well, which of course means it's also important to do the other things I've mentioned. Though you may need to make an effort specifically when it comes to sleep in case you don't sleep very well. For example, make sure you don't go to bed with your phone or watch TV while you're in bed. And it's also important to not do any work or think about anything that you might be worried about right before going to bed. When you go to bed, you want to be relaxed. And you want to make sure you go to bed in time so that you may sleep for 7 to 8 hours. Okay, so those are some practical tips to help with stress and cortisol, which is specifically related to belly fat. Listen, it's important to understand why we gain excess fat in the first place. Remember, high cortisol may lead us to eat a lot more and even reduce our metabolism. And if we did what most people tell us to do in order to lose that fat, which is to eat less and move more, it could potentially make the situation even worse by increasing cortisol even more. So it's important to understand why we gain the excess fat if we want to solve the problem so that we may finally lose the excess fat once and for all. And to help with that, I've created a free, no BS guide showing you 3 sneaky and overlooked causes of weight gain that have nothing to do with eating too much or exercising too little. This is the stuff that can truly make it or break it when it comes to losing weight without having to starve ourselves or even exercise, because we go to the root of the problem so we can solve it once and for all. So this is a guide that will show you what may be holding you back from losing the excess fat so that you may finally unlock weight loss. To download the free guide, head over to this website, which I'll link to below this video. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video.